Whoop whoop. Here we are. Time to put some head studs in. Okay. I don't have my heads back yet, so we're not going to put the whole head on. But we're going to do this the way that I've always done it, which isn't necessarily the way that ARP instructs you to do it. But I've done it 4 or 5 times and never had a problem. So these are your head studs. The first thing you're going to want to do is inspect them, make sure there's no like weird things with them. They shouldn't be. I've never had one, but you never know. And then you're going to grab a clean cloth. You're going to clean at least the threads that you're going to put in for the time being, okay? So that's these with the little dimple at the bottom. So I'm going to clean just this one, and I'm going to show you how to do 1 or 2 of them, and kind of the differences. They give you instructions, but there's always been a problem for me with getting this thing to go all the way in, and I usually have too much thread sticking out of the top. So I'll show you kind of what I do and what the easiest thing, I guess the easiest way to get them in is. Okay, here we are with our block. I'm just going to install this middle one first. Now one key is, don't put this in and drop it. You're dropping a steel stud onto aluminum threads. Don't do that. And then the next thing, you're just going to try to hand tighten this thing as much as you can. Now like I said before, I've never been able to get these things to bottom out by hand. And you'll notice they have a little, I call it a broach, Allen key. Now you can't put a whole lot of torque on that thing. Actually this one's going in quite well. And I think that's part of my experiment this time. And what I did was I left the head studs in the air conditioning so they'd be cool. And you could probably get this same same result if you put them in the refrigerator. It kind of shrinks that steel a little bit, so you can put those things in and it won't be as tight getting that thread down in there. The times that I've left them out, they've had more issues, and it seems like I don't get this little nipple here to hit the bottom of that hole, which is really where you want it. So that being said, just put these all in, thread them as much as you can by hand, and if it seems like it's getting really hard, especially if you've had them cold, then back it out, maybe spray some kind of cleaner down in there. See, that one's getting harder already, but it's still going by hand. And you can tell when it bottoms out. It's just going to hit the bottom and stop spinning. And it's not going to be like a gentle, you can still kind of spin it kind of situation. Like that one's not quite bottomed out. See, I can still spin it, and it just gets hung up a little bit as you get more threads in there. That one's bottomed out feeling, but then you can kind of wiggle it a little bit, get a little bit more on it. So don't go until you just can't do it by hand anymore. You kind of want to put it in there. They recommend doing a thread chaser with these. I've never done it. I'm sure there's probably Subaru gurus out there that swear by it. I just never have done it. And so you want these all the way in, because what happens is if you don't get them all the way in, they'll be sticking out at the top of your head, and so when you put the bolt on, it's not going to actually torque your head down. And this is all we're doing. Like I said, I don't have my heads back yet, but we want to get these all in and then kind of let them acclimate to the right temperature. And once I get the heads in, which will be tomorrow, I'll kind of show you guys how to put the head on, the head gasket, how to clean everything, and we'll go through that process. And this will all be one video, so you won't know it's tomorrow when I get it done. But so I'm going to finish putting these head studs in, and like I said, the most important thing is don't drop them down in this hole, because that is going to cause those threads on the inside of there to be warped, and things won't thread back in. You can see I'm still getting some turning on this one. And And what I'm going to do is I am going to put an Allen head in here and just see how much I can get. Now, you're not going to put a lot of pressure on, you know, but it definitely helps to be able to hold on to it. So that's my next step, is I'm going to put them all in as much as I can by hand, and then use an Allen to just get these in a little bit more. You're not supposed to torque on these like that. You definitely don't want to round these out, because then you can't get them out later. Well, you can, but you know, that's not what they're designed for. And like I said, I think them being cold has actually really helped, because I've never been able to get them this far down by hand before. So that would be my secret insider tip, would be get them cold. Not like freezing, you know, but 60 degrees versus 95 degrees, you know, it's going to help you a little bit. So I'm going to finish that up, and I'll just kind of show you a picture when they're all done. And you'll see they should all be level, but this guy in the middle has a lot further to go than this one. So that's kind of what I was telling you. I can't turn this one by hand anymore, but there's still room for it to go. If I wiggle it back and forth a little bit, I can still get some turning on it, but I'm gonna end up having to put a little bit more into it. So I'm gonna get those figured out, and I'll get back with you. Okay, so I got these two in and all the way, and one way you can tell is when you kind of wiggle them back and forth, you won't feel it knocking around in there. When you wiggle this one back, you can kind of feel it shifting around. And when I say you're not putting any pressure on it, I mean it's just like a real easy turn. You know, this is just giving you a little bit of leverage. And if you feel it getting really hard, then you're gonna probably want to back it out and double check on it. You definitely don't want to cross thread anything at this point. Your block's all clean. You start throwing metal out. See, this one's getting a little bit harder than the other ones were, and you can tell that maybe those holes just aren't as clean as they should be. And one thing you can do is you can tilt this block so that if you sprayed brake clean in there, it would just kind of fall right out. But it's going in okay. I'm not having to torque on it too much. And you can tell, like, it hits the bottom. That was not moving. That was not moving. And you can tell they're all about the same in same depth. This one seems like it might be able to go just a little bit more. And keep in mind, you're not trying to torque outwards on those threads. So you're not torquing this guy down into there. It's just going to sit in those threads, but you definitely want that little end bit that I was telling you about to be sitting flush with the bottom. So, you know, I'm talking, you shouldn't be putting more than, oh, I don't know, 5 foot-pounds, if that. It's hard to tell when you're using a little Allen key, but I've definitely noticed that them being cold has helped quite a bit in getting them all the way down relatively easy. So that would be my suggestion, is make them cold. You know, not freezing. Don't drop them in the freezer or anything. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, but you know, just make sure they're clean, and you know, make sure your holes are cleaned. You know, spray some brake clean or something in there. Make sure there's no debris in there, and then put these in that way. So I'm going to finish up the rest of this block, putting these in, and then after that, once I get the heads back tomorrow, we'll be putting the head gaskets on. Also, in the meantime, tonight I may start cutting into my bumper over here and putting in my oil cooler and my front mount. So if I do that, that'll be a separate video. When I do it, it's going to happen. So I'll keep y'all informed. Okay, I've got all of them in. And the best way to tell is just kind of make sure they're all the same distance out. You see one that's poking out a little bit, you may have to undo it. You might have to fight with it a little bit. You might have to wiggle it a bit in order to get them out. But these are all solid, and they're all pretty close to being in. Now, some of that, once you torque these down, I mean, you're going to be putting, you know, 90 foot-pounds on some of these, actually on all of them. And there's a specific torque sequence, and I'll show you that in a minute. But you know, make sure they're there. You might have to get on one or pull one out once or twice. That one on the bottom left, I had to do once or twice. This is cream soda, delicious. So I'm gonna do the other side, and just for fun, I actually did put the other ones in the freezer. I'm not suggesting you do this, but I am kind of curious if it's gonna make them go in easier, because it seems like they got harder as they went along, as they warmed up out here. So I'm curious to see if that makes any difference at all, or if it's all in my head. So I've cleaned the other side out while the block was slanted, so I'm gonna go grab the other ones and see if they go in any easier. So wow guys, I gotta say, putting those things in the freezer made it way easy to get these things all the way to the bottom with little effort. I actually backed them off a little bit from the bottom because I'm gonna wait till they expand fully to bottom them out. I want them to be the same temp as the block. So I got them to the bottom and then I backed them off, I don't know, 1/8 of a turn, just because I don't know if that metal expanding when it's already tight in the bottom is going to hurt the threads, so I don't want to mess with that. I'm playing with experimental stuff, so I'm not really trying to break anything. I really hate to break threads in a block. I doubt it would do anything. This stuff this is steel and this is aluminum, so they're going to expand at different rates anyways, but I'm just thinking on the safe side here. So I've got 3 more to do. Those have been sitting in the freezer, so they should be even colder than these are. And like I said, this is just an experiment, but it did seem like they threaded all the way down and bottomed out way easier than the other side that was pretty close to ambient temperature in here. So just a little fun trick. Again, make sure you don't need to put any. ARP sends you this special lubricant for your fasteners, and you're not going to put that on the bolts. And these are the washers. You'll clean those off, and these are the nuts. And you'll actually end up putting this lubricant on the. Let's see, you'll put it on this portion when you start to torque your fasteners down. So we're not to that point yet, so this is all going to go back in the box for the time being, but that box is in the freezer, so I'm going to go grab that and put the last 3 in.